From the management today, we have with us Mr. Karan Adani, CEO and whole-time director, Mr. Subrat Tripathi, CEO of the Port Vertical, Mr. Vikram Jaisinghani, CEO of the Logistics Vertical, and Mr. Satyaprakash Mishra from the IR team. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the call to Mr. Karan for his opening remarks, post which will have the question and answer session. Over to you, Karan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the conference call to discuss the operation and financial performance of APSEZ for the quarter ending 30th June 2021. Let me start by quoting our chairman from his message in our recently published integrated annual report. He said, "We must believe in our own capability and must be able to depend on it for economic construction, especially in times of crisis, to ensure our economy builds the intrinsic robustness to manage disruptive black swan events like COVID-19. We must unhesitatingly write our own definition, and only when we are able to fully mobilize the efforts of our own people, we will be able to develop our economy in a way that we can take advantage of our country's demographic dividend that we have not yet been able to fully unleash." In lines with this wise advice, we believe APSEZ is competently placed to address the new normal. We possess the advantages arising out of efficient port operation, seamless multimodal integration, proprietary cargo evacuation network, and the ability to manage large volumes. Our strategy of increasing investment in cutting-edge technologies to integrate our strengths will create an enhanced customer experience. To evolve and emerge as logistics partner of preference, we will continue to manage port cargo of our customers while growing proportions of our revenue is likely to be derived from logistics, where we deliver directly to our customers, saving them time, cost, and effort. We have started the year FY22 by hitting the ground running. All our large ports have performed well and have grown in high double digits. This is on account of our strategy to add capacity during a time when sweating of existing capacity was a constraint. But this has turned the tide in our favor and helped them turn this adversity into an opportunity. APSEZ has gained 310 basis points in terms of market share in overall cargo and stands at 28.6%, and 163 basis points in container, which now stand at 42.7%. Mundra, our flagship port, is the largest commercial port, and in the past year has overtaken JNPT as the largest container handling port. Our growth journey will further fortify with the recent announcement of the acquisition of Gangavaram Port. Our efforts to create a transport utility which banks on our network of ports as its cornerstone is forging ahead. We are expanding our capacity in rail logistics and are currently operating 66 rails, which includes container, grain, auto, and bulk rails. We have started consolidating all rail track assets under one roof in APSEZ, and we are in the process of acquiring SRCPL from the group entity, which will take our rail track assets to 620 kilometers. Coming to the operational performance for the quarter, the presentation on operational and financial highlights was sent to the stock exchange and uploaded on our website. I hope you have had time to look at it. APSEZ handled a cargo volume of 76 million metric tons, a growth of 83% as against 33% growth registered by all India ports. Our strategy to achieve East Coast-West Coast parity, handle all types of cargo, and diversify cargo mix ensured continuous gain in market share in India. Our cargo basket is well diversified, with dry bulk constituting 48%, container 40%, and liquid cargo, which includes crude, constituting 12% of our total basket. You may refer to the presentation for further details on port and cargo segment-wise breakdown. Let me give you a brief on the status of the announced acquisitions. Now, let me give you a brief on status of announced acquisition. On Gangavaram Port, we intent is to acquire 100% stake of Gangavaram Port Limited. We have already acquired 31.5% stake from Warburg Pincus at a consideration of rupees 1,954 crores, which works at rupees 120 per share. We have also signed an agreement with TVS Raju and family for their 58.1% stake at the same price of rupees 120 per share. We are in advanced talks with Government of Andhra Pradesh to buy out their 10.4% stake. The process is expected to be closed in next 30 days for GOAP stake. If GOAP stake is acquired, then our first option is to merge Gangavaram Port and APSEZ. To evaluate that merger, a committee of independent directors has been formed. If the merger is approved, then DVS Raju and family will be paid in the form of APSEZ shares. In this case, we do expect that the financial consolidation of Gangavaram Port will happen as of 1st April 2021 on APSEZ balance sheet. As announced in March 21, APSEZ has also commenced the process of consolidation of its rail track assets and acquisition of SRCPL from one of the group entities through a composite scheme of mergers, which has been approved by Stock Exchange, will now be filed with NCLT for seeking approval of stakeholders. This includes seeking approval from minority shareholders, which is in line with our APSEZ board-approved policy on related parties. The entire purchase consideration will be paid through equity swap of a volume-weighted average price of rupees 675 per share, resulting in issuance of 7.06 crores new shares of APSEZ. The meeting of stakeholders for approving the merger will take place in last week of September. We expect the transaction to complete in next few months, and financial consolidation with APSEZ will happen from April of 21. I'm happy to inform you that in July 21, as part of our capital management plan, APSEZ has become the first Indian infrastructure company to issue US dollar bonds of $750 million, dual tranches of 10.5 and 20-year maturity, at a fixed coupon of 3.8 and 5% respectively in global capital markets. APSEZ has given a longer yield curve to investors and has elongated its debt maturity profile to 7 years. Let me now introduce you to Mr. Subrat Tripathi, who is now heading our port vertical, and Mr. Vikram Jaisinghania, who is heading our logistics vertical. Subrat and Vikram will brief you about the performance of their respective verticals, and I will give you the update on the strategic and financial performance at the end. Over to you, Subrat.
Thank you, Mr. Karan Adani. Good evening, everyone on the call. Let me give you an overview of the performance at the port vertical. I will start by cargo segment-wise. In the container business, in Q1 of FY22, APSEZ handled a total container volume of 2.08 million TEUs, a growth of 69% compared to an all-India growth of 51% on a year-on-year basis. This was led by Mundra Port, which grew by 65%, Hazira, which grew by 32%, Ennore by 211%, Katupalli by 16%, and the addition of Krishnapatnam volume by nearly 84,000 TEUs. Mundra Port continues to stay at the top in terms of container volume. In Q1 of FY22, it handled 1.61 million TEUs, which is nearly 18% ahead of JNPT, its nearest competitor. This is on account of a strategy of partnering with large shipping lines of the world through our strategic JVs and continuous gaining of market share. During the period, 2 new container services were added, one each at Mundra and Hazira, which will contribute about 125,000 TEUs of container volume per annum. In the dry bulk segment, in Q1 of FY22, the total dry bulk cargo handled was 36 million metric tons, a growth of 104%. Within this segment, minerals grew by 90%, coking coal by 42%, fertilizers by 32%, and agri-products grew by 37%. Coal volume registered a growth of 126% on the back of higher imports by Adani Enterprises, Adani Power, JSW and Tata Steel. As a part of the diversification of cargo basket, we have added two new cargo types, namely sulfur at Dahej Port and dolomite at Katupalli Port. In the liquid segment, in quarter 1 of FY22, APSEZ handled liquid cargo, including crude of 9 million metric tons, a growth of 57%. This was led by higher volume handled at Mundra and Hazira ports. As a part of our cargo diversification, we added LPG and LNG cargo into our portfolio. In Q1 of FY22, APSEZ handled 355,000 tons of LPG and LNG. The volume in this segment will continue to grow to cater to the addressable market segment, which is set for growth as a result of the government's favorable policies on the gas-based economy. Coming to the recently completed acquisition of Krishnapatnam Port, the port is progressing well for the past 9 months under the management of APSEZ. With the integration of operations fully completed, which is reflected in its superior cargo and financial performance, I am confident that it will achieve new heights. The port has registered a cargo volume of 13 million metric tons, which is a growth of 39% on a year-on-year basis. Similarly, through our efforts to eliminate bottlenecks, reorient operations by benchmarking it to APSEZ standards, we have been able to further enhance its EBITDA margin by another 250 basis points and reach 73%. We expect the port to handle 52 million metric tons in FY22, which is a growth of 30% on a year-on-year basis. As demonstrated in case of Krishnapatnam Port, the operating team of APSEZ has been advising the Gangavaram Port team to benchmark its operations to APSEZ standards, leading to savings in cost and improvement in efficiency. This has resulted in EBITDA margin improving from 59% to 70% in quarter 1 of FY22. In the full year of FY22, Gangavaram Port is expected to handle a cargo volume of 39 million metric tons, generate revenue of 1,400 crores and EBITDA of 970 crores. As briefed by Mr. Karan Adani, APSEZ has commenced consolidating its rail track asset and is in the process of acquiring Sarguja Rail Corridor, SRCPL. As all of you know, it is an annuity business with take-or-pay contract with a sovereign equivalent counterparty. In the full year of FY22, the business is expected to handle cargo volumes of 19 million metric tons, generate revenue of 500 crores and EBITDA of rupees 430 crores. Now, I hand over to my colleague Vikram to update you on the logistics vertical. Over to you, Vikram.
Thank you, Subrat. Good evening, everyone on the call. Let me give you an overview of the performance at the logistics vertical. Adani Logistics is continuing with its strategy of expanding our logistics footprint across India, building multimodal logistics park, warehousing, and a rail distribution network in line with our vision to become an integrated logistics service provider in India. Coming to logistics operations, Adani Logistics has witnessed an increase in rail volume for Q1 FY22 as compared to last year. That is 84,717 TEUs versus 76,925 TEUs, translating into a 10% YOY growth. This is achieved despite disruptions at Kila Raipur Logistics Park. Currently, we have two logistics parks at Nagpur and Virochan Nagar under development. We have also received ICD approval for Panipat, for which construction will commence this year. GPWIS vertical continued its growth trajectory, and we handled 1.42 million metric ton in Q1 FY22 against 0.89 million metric ton in Q1 of FY21, translating into a 59% YOY growth. 5 new rigs were inducted in the last quarter, and we have a firm induction plan for this year to take the total GPWIS rigs up to 25 within the year. New circuits with respect to movement from mines to power plants have been kick-started, and this is expected to gain further momentum. We have successfully commissioned the Katihar silo project with 50,000 metric ton capacity in agri-logistics business in the last quarter, and another 3 projects are under construction, each having 50,000 metric ton storage capacity at Panipat, Kanauj, and Damora. Warehousing transactions across top 8 cities expected to achieve CAGR of 19% for the next few years as we continue to witness strong demand in the Grade A warehousing segment. Accordingly, we have commenced construction of new projects totaling 0.8 million square feet in Indore and Mumbai in Q1 FY22. Back to you, Karan.
Thank you, Subrat and Vikram. Coming to the financial results for Q1 of FY22, the strong performance in operations is reflected in the financial performance. Consolidated revenue grew by 99% from rupees 2,293 crores in Q1 of FY21 to rupees 4,557 crores in Q1 of FY22. During Q1 of FY22, the total EBITDA grew by 82% from rupees 1,438 crores in Q1 of FY21 to rupees 2,620 crores on the back of 99% growth in revenue. Revenue from port operations increased by 75% from rupees 1,904 crores to rupees 3,339 crores. Increased cargo volume and operational efficiency and 6% saving in operating costs enabled port EBITDA to grow by 78% from rupees 1,324 crores in Q1 of FY21 to rupees 2,356 crores in Q1 of FY22. Overall port EBITDA margins have improved from 70% to 71%. In Q1 of FY22, the logistics business have reported an EBITDA of rupees 62 crores, a growth of 42%. EBITDA margins improved by 125 basis points to 23%. Tax incidence during the period was lower due to the lower composition of profit from the APSEZ standalone entity, which was impacted by forex movement. Profit before tax and profit after tax increased by 60% and 77% respectively due to higher operating profit. To conclude, I must acknowledge the resilient spirit of Adani Ports workforce, who through the thick and thin of these times stood resolute to deliver this spectacular performance in the first quarter of FY22. During the first 4 months of FY22, we have handled a cargo volume of around 100 million metric tons. Based on the current market trends, we expect the cargo volume in FY22 to be in the range of 350 to 360 million metric tons, which includes approximately 39 million metric tons for Gangavaram Port. The consolidated revenue is expected to be in the range of 18,000 crores to 18,800 crores. Consolidated EBITDA is expected to be in the range of 11,500 crores to rupees 12,000 crores. We expect our port EBITDA margins to be at 71% and CapEx for the year to be in the range of rupees 3,100 to 3,500 crores. With all of this, we expect our free cash flow to be in the range of 7,100 to 7,600 crores. These guidance keeps in mind that we will be consolidating the Gangavaram and Sarguja Rail balance sheet and P&L as of 1st April 21. In the end, I just want to say that we are well on our target of achieving 500 million metric ton of cargo throughput and to target to have 40% of India's trade, EXIM trade. We do believe that we will be able to achieve this target much ahead of our timeline given of FY25. And this will also ensure that progressively we increase our port EBITDA margins to the range of 72 to 73% and doubling our EBITDA well before earlier guidance of 2025, and which obviously results in increasing our ROCE on a consolidated basis of 20% and above. With this, we can open the lines for question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We would like to remind participants that you may press star 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Mohit Kumar from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. And congratulations on a good set of numbers. My first question is on the guidance. Do you think a guidance is conservative given the opening up of global and domestic economy? I think we are just included 10 million ton additional. And the related question is, does the rising container freight prices is a worry? That's the first question.
Yeah, sure. So I think I don't think guidance is conservative. I think what we have given guidance now looking at the 3-4 months of operations as well as looking at global scenario as well as the COVID scenario, we think it's a realistic guidance that we have given. In terms of your question on the container freight, I think it is not a worry. We do even with the rising freight, we have seen that market has bounced back quite significantly on a pan-India basis, and we do believe that the similar growth will continue for the rest of the year.
Okay. So my second question on DFCC, I think that we are reaching closer to the DFCC operation. So my question is, does the current connectivity from Palanpur to Mundra, which doesn't have doubling and electrification, do you think that will affect our efficiency near term? And is there any proposal to upgrade the railway line connecting Mundra to Palanpur to 25 million ton axle load? And when do we expect the doubling electrification to be completed?
Well, thank you. The DFC is slated for completion by about mid of next year. And by the COVID standards, we are expecting it to get completed by December 22. In line with our aspiration to connect with the DFC, we have taken 2 steps. One is that the present line from Adipur to Mundra Port is a double line. We are electrifying it to coincide with the electrification of Palanpur, Samakhali and the DFC connectivity. Also in line with the aspiration and not waiting for the DFC to kind of commence with what is the best offering is to run double stack trains. We have already started running double stack trains from Mundra to the NCR region, and you would be pleased to know that we have had quite a significant growth in double stack in this particular year across the over of last year. So we are in line to coincide with the DFC's commissioning as well as the electrification. Your question on 25-ton axle load, this would be more prevalent for the eastern part of the country where we run bulk. On the western part of the country where the train loads and the tonnages on each train is lesser than what is required on the eastern side. On the eastern, the legs we have already getting converted to 25-ton axle load, and we will be in line with the DFC's expectations. Thank you.
So one clarification, sir, you don't require 25 million ton axle load upgradation of railway line connecting from Mundra to Palanpur. Is that right?
Yes, it's 25-ton axle load, which means that each axle over the bogie, exhibits a load downward on the railway track for 25, which is over the conventional railway track of 22.5, which we are already aligned with. The 25-ton axle load is basically for heavy haulage of trains for open and dry bulk, which we are in our eastern ports at Dhamra, Gangavaram, and Krishnapatnam. So you don't require a 25-ton axle load on the western DFC literally, because the loads per container train are much lesser than the dry bulk trains. But let me also clarify, as and when 25-ton axle load does happen, we would be increasing to 25-ton axle load between our Adipur and Mundra line, which is basically a combination of increasing the sleeper density and the rails, which we are already equipped with. Thank you.
Understood, sir. Thank you and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Paras from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Karan, my question is more around, given the recent flurry of acquisition, can you talk about how much room does your balance sheet have to take on further acquisitions? I'm particularly interested on your thoughts on potential divestment of container cost from Government of India. And secondly, for your team, just a clerical one, does the first quarter FY 2022 volume, does it include Gangavaram already? Thank you.
So, Paras, let me answer your second question first. The quarter one FY 22 numbers does not include Gangavaram volume. It is X of Gangavaram, the 75 million ton. To answer your first question in terms of acquisition, today see our balance sheet, our net debt to EBITDA is around 3, and if the way we are looking at the growth and we are looking to hit our targets, we do believe that our balance sheet would remain at a net debt to EBITDA of 3. So that gives us a room of almost 1 turn on net debt to EBITDA minimum, without hampering our investment grade rating to do acquisition. In our view, Concor is a very strategic acquisition, and we do believe that raising funds and without stretching the balance sheet, we should easily be able to do it. We should easily be able to do that acquisition.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Karan, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Prateek Kumar from Antique Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, everyone. My first question is regarding this guidance for logistics segment. It seems there is some reduction in the guidance in target revenues for this segment. Any specific reason there when we are looking to sort of accelerate in this segment?
So I think the guidance reduction is mainly because of the Kila Raipur ICD, which has been which has, as you know from the news item, that it has been shut. That's the only reason. Otherwise, we are on track on other assets.
So it's the ICD revenue which we are losing to an extent of 300 crore from that particular asset.
No, the ICD plus the rail revenue which we would be getting out of running, moving boxes over there.
Okay, so we don't have any terminal which can compensate for loss at Kila Raipur, and this just goes straight away to some competition. This whole business in this region.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Okay. Secondly, we have last quarter we said that we will be integrating all our businesses, acquired businesses, SRCPL and GPL from 4Q22. Why has this been generally accelerated or sort of kept it to 1Q22?
Yeah. So so that we clarify, GPL Gangavaram Port, earlier when we gave the guidance, we were not too sure whether it will be a cash deal or a share swap deal. After negotiation, we have come to an agreement that we will be merging both the companies, that is GPL with the APSEZ. And once we are merging, we have the option of consolidating the balance sheet from 1st April, and we have opted for it. And keeping that in mind, we have also put in management in place from 1st April 2021. On SRCPL as well, since we are going through the merger route, we have followed the same strategy. And that's the reason for the addition.
Okay. And as in, I mean, we seem to have increased 10 million ton of guidance related to, I mean, the revised number of 350 to 360, which now incorporates full year of numbers. So this is related to container segment be doing better than expected, or overall any other commodity doing better?
Yes, I'll ask Subrat to explain to you where we're seeing the growth in commodities.
Yeah, thank you. So we are seeing very robust growth both in the container segment. You would be watching that Mundra, our flagship port, has emerged truly as the gateway port of Indian EXIM trade, and its nearest competitor, which we kind of outran last year, and we continue to hold a very strong lead in this quarter, and we believe this will continue. As well as across the eastern growth, you will see that we are balancing growth both on east and west, and that's a part of our strategy. So the growth clearly comes from two large segments. It's container at Mundra, Hazira, and the southern cluster, which will catch up, after the lockdown have improved. And also on the sector on the eastern and dry bulk with our very robust connectivity to the steel plants. You're aware and you're seeing, kind of an unprecedented growth of steel industry in India, and that's being propelled through our eastern ports as a gateway. So clearly and truly we see the growth areas on two fronts: containers in the west, which Mundra will continue to lead and hold its pole position, as well as dry bulk in the east, which will continue to align with the major industries, and these will be growth drivers on both the sides. Thank you.
Thanks. And one last question. There is some adjustment in Krishnapatnam port revenue and EBITDA one-time adjustment, which is mentioned in the Excel. What is this related to?
Pratik, this is a one-time income that we have booked in Krishnapatnam this time. So we expect this income not to be repeated. Hence, we have kind of kept it out of our port business. I'll probably take you through the details offline. Okay.
Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amish Shah from Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Karan. So Karan, if I look at the port market share broadly, it's about 50% with major ports, almost 30% now with you guys, and about 20% with smaller private companies. The question was, how much of the, if it is possible to know, how much of this 20 over time would you argue can be acquired from the smaller ports, and how does the Major Ports Authority bill help us, get some share of the 50% major ports as well?
So the Major Port Authority bill doesn't per se help us in terms of acquisition of market share. In terms of, to answer your first question, we do believe that on our market share currently at 25-26%, we do believe that we can go up to 40%. And it is not necessary just from minor ports, but we also believe there is an opportunity from taking market share from the major ports. On the minor port side, as I've been saying, there are basically two acquisitions which could be on the block, which is Karaikal Port and Gopalpur Port, which combined combined volume is in the range of 40 to 45 million tons. So it's not a major shift in terms of market share, but that is the possible upside if you were asking.
Got it, Karan. So about 15% of the existing volumes. And while I understand acquisitions in the major ports is not possible, but could we look at them as a private sector outsourced operator within the major ports?
Actually, Amish, to be honest, if you look at our past experience, where we have assets in Vizag, Goa, Ennore, Tuna, financially they are not one of the best operating assets for us. So I think, and that's mainly because of constraints that are there in major ports. I think it's a conscious decision that we are taking to stay away from major ports, especially where you have one particular commodity that you can handle. So we have seen that as part of risk, you can't have capacity linked to only one particular commodity, and unless it's very, very strategic in nature, like just thinking out loud, if it is like something in JNPT or in West Bengal, in Haldia port, we would ideally be avoiding getting into biddings into major ports.
Got it. Makes sense. And Karan, is it possible to give some update on the potential policy of of the land utilization around ports in general?
So we are looking at development in large scale development in Mundra and Krishnapatnam. That's where we are looking at two large scale industries to come. We are seeing a lot of uptick happening now that we are seeing the overall economy improving and capacity utilizations increasing. We are seeing a lot of people looking to build new capacity. Our guidance of around 800 to 1,000 crores of revenue coming out of port development income. Those guidance continue, and as you've seen this year, we have already booked. In this quarter, we have already booked majority of it. But we do expect the similar guidance to continue in the future, in near future as well. So for the next 5 years minimum.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Karan.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Shah from Centrum Broking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Karan. So my first question is on the thought process of merging Gangavaram instead of keeping it as a subsidiary. So any particular reason we are looking at Gangavaram differently as compared to all the other assets which continue to be a subsidiary?
No, so we are merging Gangavaram mainly due to tax, mainly because of tax reason, as well as to give a tax efficient share swap. Basically, that's the only reason.
Okay. And the government of Andhra Pradesh state, so that will be bought out in cash, right? I mean, that is not contemplated as a share swap.
No, that will be bought out in cash, and we expect that to be completed by 15th August.
Sure. Thanks. Second question is on the multimodal logistics park. So in the annual report, we have spoken a lot about that, and we've also acquired 2 big land parcels. So can we just update where are we on the development of those logistics parks, and what kind of potential we see in terms of, let's say, a revenue or EBITDA out of that the next 3, 4, or maybe 5 years?
Sure. I'll ask Vikram to answer that, please.
So we are seeing that the next few years there is a lot of demand for build-to-suit grade A warehouses, both for e-commerce and for industrial purposes. And in line with that demand, we have acquired these 2 land parcels where construction has already commenced. In Bombay, we are building about 538,000 square feet e-commerce warehouse for Flipkart, and this development will continue. We got about 442 acres of land for development in Bombay. Similarly, in Ahmedabad, Virochand Nagar, we have made an MOU with the government of Gujarat to develop 1,400 acres of land for multimodal logistics park, primarily focusing also on grade A warehouses. Out of this, about 850 acres of land has been acquired, and we should be breaking ground in a couple of months to start development of the rail connectivities and the grade A warehouse in line with the aspirations I just mentioned.
Sure. So, both of these facilities, should they be completed by 23? Is that the timeline that we're looking at?
No, I think this development, this is a pretty large parcel of land that we're talking about. We're talking about 1,400 acres in Gujarat and 442. This will typically consume the next 5 years, and at least 5 years for the full development of both these land parcels.
Sure. And just lastly, in Dhamra, the port development income that is booked, is it for the LNG business?
Yes. So in Dhamra, we have, as you know, that we have a joint venture with Total for the LNG terminal. And as part of that deal, Dhamra Port is constructing the jetty. And so that income, now that the asset has been completed and handed over to the JV company, that's why we have booked that income.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to remind participants that you may press star 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Vibhor Singhal from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Thanks for taking my question. Karan, just 3 questions from my side. One is, if I look at our guidance increase in the cargo volumes, assuming that we were earlier contemplating a Q4 integration of Gangavaram and now a Q1, the incremental Gangavaram volume that we're looking at is around 30 million tons. So the 10 million incremental cargo that we're expecting is from the remaining other ports of our portfolio. So any specific port that you believe that will probably have the large chunk of this incremental growth that we are looking at? Or is it going to be just driven by the overall macroeconomic recovery and will be spread across all the ports?
Well, thank you. It's going to be a combination of all that you mentioned. One, there is an overall macroeconomic growth. We are seeing that we're much better handled, kind of slated to handle the third wave plan as and when it were to happen. We're seeing the ports registering very robust growth. We're seeing that all the Indian maritime sector is come back in a sense. We have come back with a bang. The growth that we're expecting is clearly placing a lot of bets on India's EXIM trade. You've seen that Mundra is leading, and this lead is consolidating to become a gateway. So the growth will come from clearly, containers at Mundra, Hazira. We've also mentioned that we've added new services. We've got consolidating services at the southern side of Ennore, where we're having mainline vessels. So the overall gateway trade ventures that are opening up, both in the west at Mundra and Hazira, and in the east at Ennore, will give us the opportunity to drive growth on containers. Now, coming to the other balanced growth that comes out of the very, very strong growth we are seeing in major industry, particularly in steel, and the fact that our ports are very intrinsically connected to the steel sector in the east. And this is also visible in a kind of a balance that we are having between our east and west strategy. So you'll see that Dhamra, Gangavaram, as and when it is entirely getting consolidated into the APSEZ portfolio, and Krishnapatnam, these will be the drivers for our growth. So the balanced growth will come from container and from the dry bulk from these main ports that I mentioned, Mundra, Krishnapatnam, Gangavaram, and Dhamra clearly. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for that. Just one more last question from my side. On the SEZ side, we booked a very strong income this quarter of around 740 crores, of course, led by the income of the Dhamra port. So any more such similar exceptional high income that we're looking at for the beginning part of the year? Overall, what is the kind of revenue that we're expecting from SEZ for FY22?
Yeah. So for this year, for FY 2022, this is the total amount that we have. We don't expect any more transactions for the year. We do have, as I mentioned earlier, we do have other projects which are in pipeline, which will get materialized in the coming 2-3 years. And so our guidance continues of approximately 800 crores of port development income recurring almost every year.
Sure. Good. Thanks for taking my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Atul Tiwari from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot and congrats on a pretty good set of numbers. So, just again, one more question on these two large land parcels which have been acquired. So, how much, annual report mentions about 2,300 crore rupees. So, but on an individual basis, how much we have paid separately for these land parcels? And is that the final amount or do we need to pay more in the future?
This is the final amount. Just give me 1 second. I don't have the exact amount in place, Atul. What I will request is the IR team to share with you separately what is the exact amount each parcels wise. But this is the final amount that we have paid, and there is no more further payment on it. Whatever capex will be going, which is in our capex guidance of 3,000 to 3,500 crores, that goes into the development of development of our assets. Part of that development also is the construction in these parks.
Okay, so broadly 2,300 crore rupees is the total final amount for both of these parcels.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and broadly, I don't know how best to ask this question and answer it, but what would be the comparable prices of land in these areas? I'm asking because obviously Bombay land 442 acres. First of all, it is a very large parcel for a city like or for an area like Bombay, and here the prices could be much higher than what is implied by this 2,300 crore rupees number. So, any idea what could be the market price for industrial land around these two areas that you have acquired?
Yeah, so market price for industrial land in the area where we have acquired in Bombay, there the market price is approximately 5 crores per acre. However, you will see that we have acquired at a much lower price than what the market is going at. And in Ahmedabad, in Sanand, there the price is going roughly at 2 crores an acre. And again, over there, if you see, we have our acquisition cost is much lower than the market rate.
Okay, and let me kind of stretch my luck a little bit. So, why would you be able to acquire it at much lower prices than the market price? Any color on that? So, whatever you can share.
There is a secret sauce, so we'll talk offline here on that.
Okay, I will leave it there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sita Raman from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. The first question is, what is on the Gangavaram port, the volume that you are guiding close to 39 MMT, what is the commodity split that you are expecting of that?
We have given the split in the presentation. Let me just pull that out. Yeah, so if you see from the 39 million tons that we are guiding, approximately I would say 60% comes from minerals and coking coal. Roughly 10% comes from other dry cargo, and then the remaining comes from thermal coal.
Okay.
We have given that breakup. We have given that breakup in the report and presentation, page 25.
Okay. My second question is basically, in the logistics segment, you have acquired a few assets along the DFC for to be done as a CFS by ICD, right? So, what is the plan on those on the development of those land parcels?
Yeah. So we bid. There was an open bidding process run by DFCL, and we have acquired 8, in our opinion, strategic assets on these DFC corridors on the Western DFC as well as the Eastern DFC. Now, the condition stipulated in the LOA is that we have to sign the formal agreement in the next few months, and we have to construct ICDs in these 8 strategic locations in the next 3 years, which means acquisition of land, making the detailed project report, commencing the construction, and operationalizing this asset. And these 8 stations, we are well poised to complete it within the stipulated lines of 3 years. And this will add on to our current fleet of ICDs, and where we will incur a capex of about 50 crores per station to develop these ICDs.
And what is the capacity that you expect to handle in each, as a cumulative or at an individual level in these ICDs?
So each station will have a different capacity that we will keep in line with the market demand of the region around that station. So I can't give a fixed number that it will be 40,000 or 50,000, but it does vary between 20,000 to even 40,000. So some places like Dadri, which is right in the heart of NCR, the capacity will be much larger. In some of the other stations like Ankleshwar, New Fulera in Jaipur, it might be even 20,000-25,000 TUs to start with.
So just to supplement over there, there is no condition in the bid that you have to build a particular capacity. So it is left to the developer looking at the market scenario, how much they want to develop.
Okay. Is there any sort of a guidance that you can give that what is the total capacity from the 8 you are planning to build? Or?
We can give it to you in give us a month's time. We will give it to you separately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Pulkit Patni from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for taking my questions. So my first question is on the logistics business. I mean, when the government put Concor on the block, it used to be a $3 billion company. Today it's a $5.5 billion company. Just wanted to get your thoughts, given that we are already investing into logistics. Is it not that we can create a business of that size on our own in the next few years, or something like this would be essential for us to get the scale? That would be my first question.
So, Pulkit, to answer your question, it is possible to create an alternate, but it takes 10 years time to create that alternate. You are paying basically the time value that you're paying to fast track your strategy.
Sure. So even at $5.5 billion, it is an asset that's definitely interesting. My second question is on Kattupalli. We've seen last couple of quarters, the performance there has been relatively weak. So just wanted to get a sense of what's happening there, and when should we expect a return of growth for that asset.
So I'll give you broad strategy, and then Subrat can give you the numbers. But the way to look at Kattupalli, especially in container, is to look at Kattupalli and Ennore together. The reason I say that is because we look at both the terminals together, and we give a solution to our customers looking at the windows that they want. And so when you look at both of them together, and also one or two shipping lines have shifted from Kattupalli to Ennore. So it is not that we have lost to a competition. It's just that we look at both the terminal together. And I'll ask Subrat to give you the details.
Yeah, in continuation to what Mr. Karan Adani has clarified, we also looking, if you look at the southern cluster of ports and you look at where Chennai and Ennore and Kattupalli are situated, so we're looking to maximize Kattupalli's presence over a bouquet of cargoes. One, on the container front, which Mr. Karan clarified, we haven't really lost. It's just that we've taken a merge service to Ennore. And then we will be, on Q3, we'll be seeing volumes coming back to Kattupalli. That's our belief. And we've got some strategic discussions already with new shipping lines on the container front. If you'll also understand, Kattupalli is also a replacement for the entire portfolio of maritime activities that go in and around Chennai. Ennore may not be entire answer to that. Kattupalli being slightly situated away from the city, little more distant from Ennore, will be handling cargoes, and testament of that is that in this quarter we added a new cargo of dolomite in the dry bulk. We're looking to enlarge the liquid business. So in a sense, we want to establish the footprint of Kattupalli handling a bouquet of cargoes. That particular answer, as it scales up and gets into the rhythm, you'll also understand that the southern cluster was hit rather badly in the COVID. We have experienced, more lockdowns in other places then. So the south versus the other growth has been a little subdued. But in Q2, we are seeing a revival, and Q3 we are very confident with the new lines coming for container, with a preference for dry bulk and a liquid business establishing itself, where we take a lead over Ennore. Kattupalli is certainly a port of the future over there. We look to consolidate, but it will certainly take a little time to scale up. And yes, we haven't lost between Kattupalli and Ennore. We would like to balance and see that the cargoes get retained within APSEZ as it were. Thank you.
Sure, that's helpful. Maybe just one last bookkeeping question. So after the 25% acquisition, the balance acquisition of Krishnapatnam, can you highlight what is the exact debt and equity split there?
Just one second. The debt equity in Krishnapatnam is 70-30.
The absolute amount, if you could.
Absolute amount, we'll give you.
I'll take it separately. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Swarnim Maheshwari from Edelweiss Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations for good set of numbers, Karan. And, once again, all the acquisitions that you have done, they are pretty attractive, both in terms of valuation and growth. I just wanted to understand from the container side. Now, we have seen that there is shortage of containers for the past about a year or so. Earlier, this was supplied. There was a supply disruption, but then it is more for the demand side. Is there any kind of a volume loss on account of container shortages? And do you think that the government's recent push towards the container manufacturing in the country, it could reduce our dependence on the imports?
Yeah, so Swarnim, on a short-term basis, we have not seen any volume loss because of the container shortage. We have actually end up seeing is that the supply chain has become more efficient because people are now pushing to reduce as much time as possible. To answer your second question, yes, the container manufacturing initiative by Government of India will definitely help India in terms of addressing these container shortages issues that we are facing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Swarnim Maheshwari from Edelweiss Securities for closing comments.
So thanks to the management of Adani Ports for allowing us to host the call, and thanks again for your detailed insights, Karan and team. Would you have any closing comments over here?
No, thank you. Thank you, Swarnim. Thank you, everybody, for joining the call. And, IR team, Satya is there. If there is any questions that any of you have, we are happy to answer any of them. Thank you so much.